From Adam's house and Gina's house and Brian's house, this is the Adam Carolla Show. Adam's guest today, Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, with Gina Grad on news and Bald Brian on sound effects. And now, future Nobel Prize winning author, Adam Carolla.
Yeah, get it on. Got to get it on. No choice but to get on mandate. Get it on. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for sharing during these very interesting times. Good day, Gina Grad.
Good day to you.
And Bald Brian.
Young money, cash money.
I have some interesting good guy, bad guys here. Some that Lynch and I wrote that were really funny. It's pretty fertile soil. Mm-hmm. And also, later on I'll be talking to 50 Cent, who was shot 9 times. Wait a minute. 9?
How many?
9.
9 times.
Yes. Also, I don't, at the risk of turning everything into a movie, but I did ask him, like, do you feel sort of invincible? Like, if you were shot 9 times and you came out the other side, and when you came out the other side, you just sold like 30 million records, 2 years later. Like, wouldn't you feel a little better than the guy sitting next to you on the Southwest flight?
Yeah, that was a running joke in Snatch. I think it was Bullet Tooth Tony, but there was a character who repeatedly got shot and just kept coming at you. Right. They had to shoot him a dozen times to put him out of commission.
I have another musical thought that I just wrote down at some point. I don't know. I just have weird things pop into my mind. But on a total side musical note, I was thinking about the song from Cher, Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves, probably her biggest hit. And they called her Gypsies. They called them basically gypsies, tramps, and thieves.
She heard it from the people of the town.
Right. That's what they were called. But she didn't do a good job finishing her point because she heard it from the people in the town. But every night after the sun went down, the men would come around and they would lay their money down, which I think kind of makes you a tramp, right?
Yeah, that's the
least a tramp.
implication. That's a strong implication.
Were they have a floating bingo game going, or were they fucking balls deep on one of you non-gypsy tramps or thieves?
Gypsy, tramps, and croupiers.
Yeah, they're essentially saying we were accused of being this, but then we kind of were. Mm-hmm. We just had to wait for the streetlights to come on.
They had a fair point.
And then the dudes, not with their lady friends, but the guys would come around and then they would pay them to have sex with them, which it probably for sure makes you a tramp. Not sure if you're a gypsy or not. I have to check your bandana on that and your large hoop earrings. And the thief, I think that's up to the individual gypsy and or tramp.
Yeah, right, I bet and services being exchanged.
Yeah, that is or isn't. It's very black and white.
I'll bet when one of those guys from the town who laid his money down was washing his dick off in the sink, you probably took a couple extra 20s from his wallet.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
So now we have 2 out of 3.
It's a business transaction.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So, like, she should have sung, they called us gypsies, tramps, and thieves, and then every night when the sun went down, we would head into town to volunteer at an old age home. You know what I mean? That would have been I don't know how you rhyme it, but you know what I'm saying? It makes
gypsy, tramps, and philanthropists.
Or at the very least, all the men would come around and lay their money down, and we said, no, thank you, good sir. What kind of woman do you take me for?
We collected it and donated it to the food bank.
Right, but they happily took their money, so I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows Cher. I don't know if anyone, maybe it's a little late.
If she could just turn back down.
Oh, that's right. Cher.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Was Cher?
If I could find a way.
Hey, Cher, I love that video because there you are on the battleship Missouri and you're wearing your tights and your thong.
Bob Mackie.
Oh, is that a Bob Mackie?
If I could find a way.
Yeah, you are the opposite of Lizzo. When Lizzo puts a thong on, there's a lot going on. But when you put your thong on, there's not much there.
I don't know why I did the things I do.
So, you know, what I was curious about with that video is there you are on a battleship straddling guns and sailors all around and you're scantily clad. I wonder how you got that pushed through the War Department. You know, it doesn't seem like, seems like a pretty naughty video to be shooting on a ship.
Words are like weapons, they wound sometimes.
Follow-up
Like
question,
weapons.
were those extras and actors or were those actual active duty servicemen?
I didn't really mean to hurt you.
Okay.
Yeah, so Cher, this is turning into Mr. Jaws, I think, which is Dickie Goodman. You have to look that one up and then you'll have a laugh. Cher, was Sonny really that short?
Then you love me like you used to do. Oh,
What are you talking about?
I don't know.
All right, hey,
Sonny.
that was a pretty good run.
That was good.
Thank you.
We got a
That's
lot of
all
that
off
damn-
the top, man. I don't
that
even
was
know
a
that song.
That was a damn good Cher run, but yeah. Anyway, you know, it's high time somebody took a magnifying glass to some of those Cher songs from the
Yeah.
mid '70s.
The time has come.
It's overdue.
Some would say.
I don't call myself a hero. I'm just doing my job.
You're shining light on important topics.
That's right. She did not help the gypsy or the tramp community whatsoever in this country.
Do we know who
All
wrote
right.
that song? I'm gonna look it up. Did she pen that?
I'll say Neil
I-
Diamond.
It seems like everything was just Neil Diamond back
Yeah.
then.
Okay.
All right. I was I was thinking, so I kind of approach everything from a sort of psychological, where we at, how's this making people react? You know, so for me, it's an interesting time to study people, study individuals, study groups, study us, you know, as a culture. And so these little moments where everyone is freaking out, or a lot of people are freaking out or panicked or whatever, I sort of always look at everything, which is, how can I make some lemonade out of these lemons of shelter in place or whatever we're being asked to do, the economy and people dying and everything else. And I thought, for me, I always go, I'm just going to study people. I'm just going to study our culture, because then I could learn something. And you can never put this kind of study on in a lab. You know, you can never recreate this study, the globe closing down, and, you know, the difference between how Sweden perceives it and how neighboring countries to Sweden perceive it, and so on and so forth. So I just sort of I'm just sort of trying to look at things. Now, one is, I realize that the news just inflates, fans flames, and builds and builds and builds. So on the way up, it's a pep rally, and we're throwing pallets soaked in kerosene in the middle of this fire. That's what the news does. They go nuts, and it works for us. It's good for us. It's not good for us, but we like it. We like it. Look, it's just the same math I was telling you about, all these true crime shows. You know, the math, what Lynette thinks statistically about her kids being abducted is so far off of the actual statistics of her child being abducted. And it's the same thing. We do a panic math, and the news gets it. That's why there's so many stories about things that are, you know, statistically completely insignificant. Your kid being abducted. Just think about your kid being abducted. Your kid is, in this country, rarely, if ever, abducted. And if they are abducted, it's always from a biological parent who lost the divorce, and there was a restraining order and visitation, blah, blah, blah. That's who abducts your kid if they're abducted, which they're statistically not in this country. But we take that shit and we run with it. And the thing about the news, as I realize, is you have to listen to the wording. On the way up, it's just devastation, pandemic, doom and gloom, millions will die. And then on the way down, as they start finding little pieces of information that might butt up against the doom and the gloom, they start finding little pieces of positive information. You have to also hear how they soft sell the positive.
Right.
So on the negative, they go hard.
Oh yeah,
On
you
the
can't let your guard.
positive, they weaken it.
Yeah, you can't let your guard down, otherwise no one's going to tune into the news.
Yeah.
Right.
Got to keep up that catastrophic thinking.
I had a couple of interesting moments. I was watching, I think it's Alex Witt, blonde-haired, kind of middle-aged lady on, I think it was MSNBC on Saturday. And first thing first, they had someone on from Florida who was talking about opening the beaches and how this was going to work. And Alex, the anchor, made this point, which I found kind of scary. We'll play it for you.
I want to get back to the point you made about where Floridians stand on the prospect of reopening. As you know, after being very slow to shutter parts of Florida, Governor DeSantis has not given a timeline yet for reopening the state. Beaches are open, some of them again now. But that polling shows 80% of Americans would not go to public places if restrictions were removed. Do you think it is responsible for counties to open beaches? I mean, are the open beaches being patrolled sufficiently to ensure that people are social distancing, that they're not just lying there trying to get a tan?
Okay, so this is news or commentary, but the first part of it, her dissertation is it's irresponsible to open the beach because most Americans, 80% of Americans say they're not going, or they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, why is that irresponsible? If people are staying home volitionally, then so be it. 80% of them will stay home. If 80% of people say they're not going to engage in social distancing and you go, let's open the beach, then you're being irresponsible. Right. But if 80% of the people say, hey, we're going to stay home anyway, then good. Problem
the beach will
solved.
only be at 20% capacity.
Yeah. Right. But here's the scary part and the sort of insidious part. She's like, who's going to patrol this? What if someone wants to just lay there and get a tan? Like, who from the government is going to
Tell them not to
cite that person or arrest that person? Like, her example is, what if someone wants to lay there and get a tan?
The most harmless activity you probably do at the beach.
And the more news that comes out, the more we're finding out that being outside and being in the sun turns out to be pretty dang healthy. And they don't even have, I was talking to Dr. Drew about this earlier in the day, they don't even have examples of people spreading it outside. It all seems to be spread from the hot, subway cars, inside, small apartments, apartment buildings.
Yeah.
Inside. They don't even have examples. Doesn't mean it hasn't happened, but what I mean is the studies are suggesting it's not spreading outside, it's spreading inside. But her thing is like, what's to stop people from laying on the beach, and who's going to police this? Which is like, I don't know, it's a little bit of a, pardon the pun, jump the shark moment for the news to be wanting the police to get out there and get people. But I then realized, as I was thinking about seeing all this footage of everyone's heading to the beach. So Dr. Drew, Mike August, they're in Orange County, I guess, or have places in Orange County. And I guess everyone is just flocking to the Orange County beaches.
That's what the footage looked like.
Because the LA County stuff is shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, it's a beachhead. Like, they're taking the beach back. Like, this is what we're doing. We're symbolically going to the beach. I mean, they're doing it because they want to have fun at the beach. But what I'm saying is it's interesting and symbolic that the beginning of this sort of resistance, if you will, is at the beach. And I sort of hearken back to a bit I did on PragerU, but I also had it in one of my books, and I've told you guys about it before, that I symbolically look at the beach as the government growing and the rules getting deeper and the sort of progression of politicians sort of taking over our lives. I've always said, look at the sign on the beach.
Right.
When I was a kid, I think it said closed from midnight to 5 a.m. That was like the sign.
Right.
Tiny sign.
Basically, don't sleep here.
Right. Don't sleep here. That was it. And every year the sign gets bigger and longer, and there's less things you can do. And they never do this. They never go, look, we have a maximum of 8 things we can put on this sign. So you would like to add no playing Frisbee. But I'm saying to you, we got a maximum of 10. You got to pull one off.
Gotta go.
One's got to go. They have to be able to they have to be able to drink alcohol or play
Smoke.
music or something, smoke. Like you got to pull one, but they just keep getting deeper. So I'll play you that. It popped in my head that I had a bit, but I don't make it seems all symbolic, and it is, but I don't make a big distinction between the beaches closing down and our freedoms closing down. As I told you many years ago, it was, Carroll Shelby building Shelby's at Venice Beach. He didn't get shut down or told what to do. So I'll play that little clip, and then I'll play a few more from the news.
If you want to know about the loss of freedom, look no further than the beach. I grew up in Southern California. I used to go to the beach all the time. There was one sign, and that sign read, "No lighting vans on fire and throwing the homeless into it." Now you go to the beach, and the sign looks like a menu from Fuddruckers. It never ends. No football, no fires, no smoking, no alcohol. And now, no frisbee, no digging, no sandcastle, no dogs. The beach is a metaphor for this country. It's freedom. It means freedom. Everyone who came to this country landed on the beach. They didn't land in Nebraska. They pulled up to the beach, they cracked a beer, they lit a cigarette, and they threw a frisbee. And now, you can't do jack squat on the beach. Look no further than the beach sign from the 50s and the beach sign from 2018. All it gets is longer. And do the politicians ever show up with their eraser and go, let's remove a few of these Orwellian ideas that we put on this bonderized steel in front of the beach? No. More things to assure we have a horrible time at the beach, don't enjoy ourselves, and more importantly, could get a ticket just because we're there trying to drink a cold one, make a sandcastle, and throw the dog the tennis ball. Don't be one of those people who adds to the sign on the beach. You be with me, sitting on a folding chair with a cigar between my lips and a beer between my legs.
It is sad when I go to the beach now, I always have all these thoughts. Like, I want to bring my dog. I have a lab. My lab loves the water. Can I bring the dog? What if I get in trouble for bringing the dog? Can I have a beer? What if I took the beer and I kept it in a bag? Or what if I transferred it into a Coke can? It's like, we shouldn't, law-abiding, essentially citizens who pay a lot in taxes shouldn't be thinking that hard when we go to the beach. But sadly, we are. Now, I also was thinking about,
You know what else I got from the video, by the way, besides your big oppression commentary? How straight your pinkies are. Look at that. It's just
but my pinkies, my pinkies are really taking a fucking pounding lately. All right. Let's see. So we have the, so I was telling you that fanning the flames on the way up, but softening the blow when the good news came in. And I had a doctor out of New York, and here's another clip 4, Max Pat. I think it's, they went to a doctor to sort of give us an update out of New York on the same Alex Witt show. And here's what he had to say. Now, listen, listen carefully. First off, I'll play you Dr. Erickson, who just came out and did a press conference out here maybe yesterday or the day before. He had some very positive information. So I'll play you some of that. It's about 2 minutes long, but it's something we're sort of hoping for and something that I was sort of assuming, but it looks like we're going that direction. I'll play you that clip. Go ahead.
So if we look at California, these numbers are from yesterday. We have 33,865 COVID cases out of a total of 280,900 total tested. That's 12% of Californians were positive for COVID. So we don't, the initial, as you guys know, the initial models were woefully inaccurate. They predicted millions of cases of death, not of prevalence or incidence, but death. That is not materializing. What is materializing in the state of California is 12% positives. Well, if we have 39.5 million people. If we just take a basic calculation and extrapolate that out, that equates to about 4.7 million cases throughout the state of California. which means this thing is widespread. That's the good news. We've seen 1,227 deaths in the state of California with a possible incidence or prevalence of 4.7 million. That means you have a 0.03 chance of dying from COVID-19 in the state of California. 0.03 chance of dying from COVID in the state of California. Does that necessitate sheltering in place? Does that necessitate shutting?
So basically, what they're figuring out is many more people are testing positive for the antibody, and thus the death rate isn't as high percentage-wise as they thought it was going to be. Just to put a fine point on it, it's basically they thought 100 people were dying out of 500 people, and now they think 100 people are dying out of 5,000 people, and it obviously changes. It changes. It's like saying, well, it turns out, like if you're doing automotive studies and you went, there's a fatality every 100 miles, you'd go, what? Oh my God. Oh, no, million miles. It's like, oh, okay, now it's less. It's less. Okay. So the doctor on Alex Witt's show, he is trying to keep the flames going. So we'll listen to kind of his version. Now, he's in a weird position because he has to report this,
right?
But it's sort of, how does he report it? You know what I mean? Now, what this should be is, hey, good news, we were way off. Turns out this is far less deadly than we'd initially anticipated. Here's how he delivers it on Cut 4. Thanks.
I worked on the Ebola epidemic. We know that for viruses in general, that are pandemics that spill over from animals, that there is early spread. So not surprising we have that early spread. What it tells us about where we are right now in the pandemic is that we cannot lift most of the social distancing. We found out that in New York, they tested 3,000 people, grocery stores, big box retailers. They found that 1 in 5 New Yorkers actually had been exposed to the virus. That would be 2.7 million New Yorkers. So there's been a lot of people who've been exposed. It also tells us that the death rate is probably a little bit lower than we expected because most of those people were not symptomatic.
Hold on. Probably a little bit less than we'd anticipated. Now, first off, you're a doctor. It's not probably. It is. It is less. And it's not a little bit less. It's not probably a little bit less. It's a fucking, this is you trying to get out of a fucking speeding ticket and go, I may have been going just a little bit above the speed limit. Right. No, you weren't. It's not, first off, this doesn't tell us probably. It tells us definitively it's less, and it's less by a lot. So you, doctor, with all the experience, convey that to the viewers of the show. Probably sort of defeats your own piece of information already. And by the way, it's funny because he's so sure of everything else in the scary department. Then when it gets to good news, it's like, probably, you didn't hear it from me. Right. A little bit less, a lot less.
Right.
Sorry.
So the probably a little bit, that's all fuzzy in language, and you can play with that and whatever. I'm not going to debate that because it's useless. But the problem with, not the problem, the issue with the math that first doctor gave, the 0.03, for example, in California, that's based on the deaths at that moment. That's assuming that no one else is going to die. Now Chris obviously can look it up. I don't know how many more people die in California every day, but since that stat was given, I'm sure thousands more have probably died in the state of California. So the number is going to creep up. And if we, alleviate these social distancing measures or whatever, based on 0.03, hey, it's so much less than we thought. That's great news. Then it jumps up, right? Like you're assuming that it's not, if the 0.03 is at that moment, the next day it could be 0.04. You know what I'm saying? With every few thousand deaths that goes up every day.
Yeah, I don't think we're experiencing that much death in California, but yes, that number, that baseline has to creep up.
Because the other number he gave was finite. It was the population of California. It was the 12 point whatever percent.
Who's been exposed. Yes, that's a valid point, and it's true, but I still don't think it's going to get up to anything close to what they were predicting.
It doesn't.
Is what I'm saying. And the other thing that I found interesting in the death department, which is later on in the program, they went to a guy who was at the beach. He was at the like Ventura County line, and he couched it this way, which is another just listening to how information is conveyed. Here's how he conveyed the deaths. So the deaths in Ventura County are almost none. I don't know. There's like 15 or something last time I checked. And then LA County's like, I don't know, 1,500 or 1,300 or something like that. So LA County is like 1,500. Ventura County is like 15. So let's see how he explains that.
Right. In neighboring LA County right now, the beaches remain closed because of the concerns there. But here in Ventura, they haven't been hit quite as hard, which is why you see a little bit of the reopening of the beaches here.
All right. But it's not hit quite as hard. It's not hit at all.
Not been hit comparatively.
Right. It's
significant difference.
Hit quite as hard is, I don't know, LA County's got 1,500 dead and you got 875 or 500 or 200, but you have nothing.
You have double
or almost nothing. So it's not hit quite as hard. Now, listen, you think it's semantics, but it's an interesting point. Anyone who's ever had an argument with somebody, had a court case with somebody, had somebody that was angry at them describe what they'd done or something, will hear how that language is massaged, right? I mean, you've all had it happen, right? You know, like, you know, the people that like accuse you of something and they go, every time you blah, 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 blah. And you go, I've done that twice in my life. And they go, almost every time.
You never stop.
Right. So I thought that was interesting. And so what I'm saying is, everyone, keep your eye on the language. Keep your eye on the language on the way up and on the way down.
On a separate point, not the language thing, but you mentioned earlier, which was good news, but that could undercut that good news is, let's say 20% of the population is like, yes, I want to go to the beach, and they go to the beach. 20% is not, an overwhelming number. What undercuts that is when one county doesn't alleviate, the restrictions. One county does. A lot of that county is going to migrate south to Orange County or whatever the county is, and it's going to be much more than 20%.
Well, this is a very good point, and my new thought on almost everything in life is all unintended consequences. That's all I think about. Like, what did we do? Well, LA shut down. So it's like if you're looking at the beach from outer space, you'd have this huge long middle part known as LA, and on the ends would be Orange County and Ventura County would be like a long. So what you did is you said, hey, the whole middle is closed. So all those people pushed
break off.
They want to go to the beach.
And now the safe distancing part is not safe because there's a huge population where obviously if they opened it and spread it out, we could do it. So it's a perfect example of unintended consequences.
I think the government did try to get out in front of that, but it didn't work, because what I thought was that the county beaches were open even if the cities weren't, but the parking lots were closed. So now I guess you're just clogging the neighborhoods, and it didn't keep anybody away.
Well, we shall see. I started to also think in general about fear and about the relationship with fear and the processing of fear and the probability of fear or the probability and how that affects fear. And so I've always had this theme that getting away from the tangible is having an effect on us mentally. And I've lived in I lived in the middle of the blue collar world for a long time in my life. And then I and as an adult, and even now, I'm very much involved with the blue collar element, the builders, the tradesmen, and guys like that, mechanics and so forth. And I'm also in the area of comedians, comedic writers, book authors, and podcasters, and blah, 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 blah. So really been able to straddle both those worlds. And I keep thinking to myself, like, why are the building guys sort of, they're not fearless, but this is not a concern of theirs at all. And then the guys who do the comedy are very concerned with it. And, I think you start thinking about education. You go, well, the comedy guys, they got an education. They're processing this. They're understanding it. But it's like, I don't know. I'm not really drawing a through line from education to fear, because there's a lot of uneducated people that are pretty well freaked out too. And you could say that about any subject. And I started thinking, like, why is it? Now, obviously, they're consuming more information. These guys are sort of on their feet and at work all day, and the other guys are like sheltering at home and like imbibing all the bad news. But then I came across this point, and I think it's real. I'd like to explore it with you guys, which is, and I know it from myself, these guys have to make calculations on danger, real calculations on real danger all day, every day, which is to say, what they do isn't inherently dangerous, but if you go to the back of my shop, there are presses and punches and chop saws and lathes and stuff. And a table saw's got a big 10-inch spinning carbide blade in the middle of it. And when you turn it on, there are things that run through your head about what you need to do. If you want to take something that's pretty narrow and push it between the fence and the blade, you should get a push stick and not put your fingers through there. I've done it a lot. You fire up a planer or belt sander, something like, you fire up a router, you can feel it in your hands. It's got a spinning blade on it. It's got a cutting blade on it. Like, right. you know that when you take that router and you drop it on a piece of hard oak, it may want to jump or shoot the oak out. So you would clamp the oak down. How about just climbing on shit and under shit? Like, imagine jacking up a car. You're just sliding under the car. The car weighs 5,000 pounds. If you didn't do a good job of putting that car on jack stands, that car shall crush you. Now, it's daily. It's every day. Every day they pick up a tool. The tool's got a blade, and there's a way to really jack yourself up with a torch, with a welding, with acetylene, with open flames, with open blades. And there's a constant reckoning, a constant, like, what's this going to do? What's this going to do? Or I've learned what this does. I've learned it to do this. And there's shit happens. Like, a lot of guys have missing fingers, or they got their hand crushed, whatever it is. But there's a daily quiet calculation that goes on over the simplest things. Like, I'm going to jack that car up. I'm going to put it on the jack stands. I'm going to get on the mechanic's creeper. I'm going to slide underneath it, and I'm going to remove the plug and drain the engine oil. Well, that engine oil could be hot. It could go right in your face. You know what I mean? The car could fall off the jack stands, or we're in earthquake country. What if a tremor hits when you're under there, whatever. So I just realized that when guys used to mow their own lawn, had to make these calculations all the time. You have a spinning blade. You fire this thing up. Someone's toes could get under there. Don't hit that sprinkler head. If you hit a rock, that rock's going to shoot out and bust a window or hit a kid in the head. It was like when our society was involved in farming and logging and everything, when guys just got up and went to work, whether it was a coal mine or a farm or a ranch or a plant, or they're operating a press punch or whatever it was, there was a constant danger calculation that just is never ending going on in your head. Now, that then means that you have an appropriate relationship with danger. You make the right decisions, or you lose fingers, or your life. And the question, there is no question of, do you go on the scaffolding at all? The question is how safe do you make the scaffolding? Right. You're going on the scaffolding. You have to have the scaffolding not break, and so on and so forth. So it's like, you see these guys up on these cherry pickers all the time and all that kind of stuff. Like, it all looks a little hairy and a little scary, but they're making that calculation every time they pick up a tool. So I think those guys are calibrated. They're constantly calibrated. And the reason they're calibrated is because they have to be calibrated, because
It's your job.
yeah, well,
Livelihood.
you can't just make the proclamation, I'm closing down all scaffolding. Nobody's going on any scaffolding. Like, that's not, we got to put stucco on the third story of the apartment building. Someone's going on that scaffolding. So someone's going, you're going. Now, do it safely. And there's also concern for time. Like, hey, you can't take all the time in the world making sure you're the safest person on the planet, climb up the scaffolding and get it done. So they're completely calibrated. If you are one of my comedian friends, you're sitting at home watching MSNBC all day and you're not calibrated. You're calibrated to write jokes, to do podcasts, to do TV shows and stuff, but you're not dealing with the danger calibration. You pick up a kitchen knife and you cut up an avocado. For that moment, you are engaged in this safety calibration. Like, we all have done that move where you like pick an avocado up and you're cutting it and it's in your hand and you're sort of like, I don't want to cut my hand, but I don't want to set it down, but I'm going to take it real easy. Like, that's your brain sort of calibrating, right? And if somebody said, hey, use this buzzsaw to cut the avocado, you go, no way, that's too dangerous. Like, I'm not going to do that. And someone said, fine, use a diver's fin to cut the avocado. You go, that's lame. No, I need something with an edge. Like, you are arriving on the right knife. I mean, think about the knife that you reach for. Think about the calculation. Like, picture you open a drawer, you have this avocado, you see like the cake frosting spatula, and you go, well, that's safe. But that's not really going to work.
How long is that going to take?
Right. How long is that going to take? And then you see the big butcher knife and you go, that's going to do it fast, but that may be a little more than I need, that cleaver, you know? So you kind of arrive on what slot in the drawer. You think about that notion of what slot do I arrive on every time? Well, if you have a job where you're just constantly operating cutting wheels and grinders and drillers and heliarcs and benders and shapers and hacksaws and stuff, like, that's just
now you're just making up words.
Gina, what are those?
It's a constant calculation of like what you need and what the danger is and all that. And if I'm just Jeff Ross and I'm watching CNN all day and calling Grubhub, I don't think I'm calculated. And I'm calibrated. Sorry, I'm not calibrated. And if you're not calibrated, then it's easy to make the wrong decision in either direction.
Makes sense.
Right.
I have a thought, but then I had another thought, a brief one, which was, it's funny you mentioned the scaffolding, and like, we're not going to not do the scaffolding. We're not going to not put up stucco. We're going to do this. We're going to figure out the safest way to put up stucco. It's kind of like the lesson of social distancing and quarantining and everything. It's like, you're not going to leave your house. You're not going to hole yourself up for 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. You're going to take a walk around the block. You're going to go to the grocery store once in a while, get takeout, whatever, but you're going to mitigate your risk, right? You're going to do it in the smartest way possible. It still has to be done. Let's just figure out the safest way to do it. Thought about what you were saying, which is, I remember being taught this at one point by smarter people than me. Like, the human body is wired for risk, right? It's wired for a danger, like to anticipate danger. Why your nostrils flare? It's why it's why when your adrenaline shoots up, or your eyes dilate or whatever. All these things are hardwired into you when your sinuses go clear. You know what I mean? When all of a sudden you're faced with a panic situation.
You pee your pants. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, for example.
Right.
But like, the guys you're describing are guys that go through a little bit of risk assessment, not even knowing it, like just like risk assessment every day, or their lives depend on it. And I wonder if that atrophies in, a certain segment of the population, people who spend a lot of time at a desk or a lot of time, whatever, in a safe space.
That's what I'm saying. I think they spend too much time at the desk, then the muscle atrophies, and now it's time for society, whether it's a show on your child being abducted,
right,
or a giant picture of the coronavirus that looks like it has teeth. Now those ideas start getting into your weakened thought process, and you're going to go further down a direction than you should be going because you don't have those muscles to assess it. Yes.
you respond to an existential crisis like you would to like, you know, a bear charging you. You know what I mean? You panic.
Yes.
Is it possible, and just for a smaller, much smaller segment of the population, is it possible then for the opposite to be true? So if you go, I work with saws all day on, you know, a 10-foot building, you think I'm scared of somebody coughing on me? So
Yes.
Is there a segment of that population as well?
There is. It's insignificant, but there's a segment of it. It doesn't, they don't have a voice on the news. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're not influencing anyone.
They're just telling each other.
They're just out operating shit without a mask.
Right.
And think about it. If these people, you know, we go, you know, the truck drivers and the construction workers and the essential workers, if these people were wired like comedians, they would never go back to work.
True.
The guys who drive a truck are already making the calculations that I'm talking about.
Right.
If you think about it, think about what these guys are doing. You're driving a truck. Is there a crosswind? Is it raining? What's the speed limit? Check the weather.
How tired are you?
How tired am I? How close am I to the car in front of me? What's my stopping distance? You know, so that's why you didn't hear any stories about truck drivers refusing to work, right?
Right.
Now, if you told Seth MacFarlane to get back to work on the Family Guy, he'd go, no, I'm not going there. And we go, but we need comedy. You're an essential worker. Like, think, you know, my friends, my comedic friends, if somebody just said what you do is essential, you need to go back to work, none of them would do it. But all the guys who drive the trucks do. And I think that's because they have that relationship. Now, you can also, obviously, there's a financial element and all that as well. But think about it. How come we haven't heard about pilots and truck drivers and people of that nature, or nurses or doctors, emergency doctors, you know, going, fuck it, I'm not doing that. Like, you know what I mean? Because there are people that are well-versed in that world.
But there's also a practical aspect to it, which is at least in terms of the pilots and especially the truck drivers versus the Seth MacFarlanes or the comedy writers of the world. They're all sharing, what is it? There's just the staff. I've been in the Family Guy offices between the animators and the bookkeepers and the blah, 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 and the writers and everything. There's 100 people inside that office versus if you're a truck driver, you're on the open road, man. How many physical human beings are you encountering on your truck run? Like there's a pilot, same thing. Like you're not going up and down the aisles. Like you're going in your cockpit and you're
Thank
not
you, Brian.
encountering
Appreciate it.
people.
No, what I'm saying is all right, I'll be clear. Even if you told Seth MacFarlane you have to safe distance and you have to work with a skeleton crew, he still would not go in. And, you know, pilots have to go to the airport. They have to get through the airport. They have to get onto I mean, you're basically saying leave the house versus don't leave the house. Right. And most of these guys would not leave the house. They would not go up. Yes, it's not an apples to apples thing, but you're basically saying to the truck driver, be alone in the truck, but you have to interact with people. You're going to have to show up somewhere at some point and do something, and you're just going to be out. All right.
And also just to that point, the jobs that are available right now, because there are plenty of places that are hiring. In this particular climate, they may be considered high risk. So they're not for everybody to go, you know, be a delivery guy or an Uber driver or, you know, a stock boy or whatever. If you need a job, that's what you're doing.
Let me hit Screwball peanut butter whiskey. That's what I wanted to say. Perfect drink for your next virtual happy hour. Peanut butter whiskey. It's not your average flavored liquor. It's made by husband and wife duo. I think they're out of San Diego, if I recall. It's made with American whiskey and peanut butter. And as I said, we busted out a couple bottles of this at one of our ACS parties, and it was the toast of the town, pardon the pun. It went faster than anything else. It is fun. Tastes amazing all by itself. Neat to put on the rocks if you want to do it, or do a shot, have some fun. But if you're going to throw yourself one of your social distancing cocktail parties and have something that no one else has, get the Screwball peanut butter whiskey. And they're also donating hand sanitizer to hospitals, police, and firefighters as well. So they're taking care of the community. Screwball peanut butter whiskey, right, Dawson?
Screwball, the original and most awarded peanut butter whiskey, is now available near you. At 70 proof, Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey is the perfect shot or the perfect addition to your favorite cocktail. Pick it up at your local store. Get it delivered today. Get ready to get screwed. Go to screwballwhiskey.com for more info. Enjoy responsibly. Advertisement by Screwball Spirits, LLC, San Marcos, California. Whiskey with natural flavors and caramel color. 35% alcohol by volume.
All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. I have those good guy, bad guy list of the good guy, bad guys ones we did right after this.
Now, Alcoa presents the COVID-19 edition of Definitely Not a Jew on the Adam Carolla Show. Dateline, Dania Beach, Florida. A small business owner is selling face masks made from the skin of alligators, crocodiles, and Burmese pythons! Definitely not a Jew!
Nice job, Dawson. All right, I have a list of good guy, bad guy, which is a new suggestion for us here, sort of like rich man, poor man. Lynch sent in a list of these, and most were all pretty damn funny. First, good guy, bad guy. Here's your last word. So,
that's good.
It's great.
A strong
yeah.
one.
Top that.
A strong start.
It's hospice, nurse, or murderer.
Yeah, that's great.
Right?
That's
Loved one.
Yes. Knows a lot about Hitler.
Oh.
It's either Simon Wiesenthal,
professor.
historian, Nazi war criminal hunter, or it's the neo-Nazi, 19-year-old from Nebraska.
Right. Enthusiast,
yes. Has performed surgery without anesthesia.
Oh.
So it's the battlefield medic or the psychopath that has you chained up in his basement. Mm-hmm. Spends time with prostitutes. It's either pimp, John, or it's the counselor, the social worker, trying to get him off of drugs, right?
Jesus.
This one I love. Spends time on a child pornography website.
Oh, no.
So you're either the pedophile or you're the FBI team that's trying to bust the ring.
You're part of perverted justice.
Right. Spends time with kids in a different country. You're either the sex trafficker or you're the doctor without borders.
Right.
Has been a senator or representative for many years. You're either John McCain or Maxine Waters. Went inside bin Laden's compound.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a strong one.
That's good.
The longtime senator thing, like Strom Thurmond or like someone, who's beloved. But
yeah, right. It's either sort of the guy who was voting down all racists, all bills, trying to desegregate schools in the 60s or beloved fixture. I don't know why. I liked a few of these. Uses the phrase, "I'm watching you." This is a pretty simple one. Picks up hitchhikers.
Yeah.
You're either just a fucking fair-minded neighbor or you're a serial killer.
Yep.
Let's see. I don't know why this one makes me laugh, but it does. Does a lot of unnecessary whistling.
Like catcalling.
Yeah, or there's the happy whistle person who just whistles for no reason, but they seem to be happy. My Aunt Pat, or my cousin Aunt Pat, I don't know what she was, but she was one of these women who just whistled. Okay. This is, by the way, not something that anyone does anymore, but she'd be in the kitchen, just entertaining herself, whistling while, making powdered milk.
My dad whistled. Yeah, I get it. Just kind of while he mowed the lawn or whatever.
There's the cat call whistle, and then there's also the whistle you do when the cop walks by after you just committed a crime.
Oh, nothing to see here. Do.
Yeah, that was a trope. All right. Secretly photographs at night. It's a weird one, but I sort of get it. This one's out of a movie, but it makes sense. Good guy, bad guy. Introduces self to neighborhood after moving into neighborhood.
Yes,
so every movie I've ever seen, when they come over and introduce themselves, they're either the fucking best or they're the worst. They're never a 5, right?
Well, practically in real life, you're either on Megan's list or you're just the friendly neighbor who wants to get to know everyone. Yeah, exactly.
Right. This is pretty damn true. Raises dogs.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Offers roadside assistance to travelers in distress.
Mm-hmm.
2 more. This one I liked a lot. Small town cop.
That's kind of your worst enemy.
You are the fucking sheriff from Porky's, or you're the guy from Walking Tall. Like you're either the guy who's holding down, you're either fighting off the biker gang, the marauders who've cut the telephone wires and are blowing into town, or you're the horrible sheriff who like pulls over the black guys and busts out the taillight with your nightstick and go, boy, you got a light out. And last one, I think we did this one. Checks in on you when you're napping at a car rest stop.
Yeah. Those are good.
Yeah. Yes.
I have one, but I thought of it earlier, but now it seems like this road has already been taken. But my first thought was takes in Runaways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a cousin of some of those that are on there. All right. I have a couple of notes written down here. I had my I had a funny boy, this is definitely you at a moment where I turned on the news last week, and I turned on the news and they were like, they've officially canceled the spelling bee. And I was like, well, cry me a river, nerds. I was like, I hate spelling so much. I was just like, all right, well, what are you going to do? I guess those nerds are going to have to go home and fucking wait it out till next year. But what do I give a fuck? They're 11. They can spell something next year or whatever. And then 10 minutes later, I got an email that was like, they've canceled Pebble Beach this year for the auto. The auto show's canceled Pebble Beach and the Quail. And I was like, oh, the humanity. Oh, this is devastating. And I just thought it was really funny, and it was an interesting little glimpse into everyone's psyche, because the second I heard about the spelling bee, I was like, big whoop. I hope they cancel it every year. But the second they canceled my car show, I was devastated.
Dark days.
It was a dark day, and I found out the information within about 15 minutes. So that was interesting. I had and the good news, which is some good stuff comes out of this. I've been, me and my sister went on our second super long walk.
Wow.
And she gave me she cut my hair when we were done.
That's right.
She fixed up the back of my neck. I feel like maybe I'm guilty of this in the carpentry world, but my sister, I get it. There's an agenda. My sister cuts hair, so she's a little critical of the haircut I gave myself. But I'm like, considering I'm doing it myself and I have no experience, I'm going to give myself like an 8 on this. Right. But she gave more of a 4.5. But I couldn't get the back. Right. I couldn't get to the backside. So I did a full, not since I was a kid move, which is I got the wall trimmer out of the drawer, and went outside and like did the bib with the beach towel move. And my sister just cleaned up the back of my neck and like buzzed off the sides.
That was nice.
Had that.
Family bonding.
Yeah. It was interesting. I talked to my talked to my dad on the phone for a long time the other day. It was weird because I hadn't talked to him in a long time, and I was trying to make excuses. You know, when you don't talk to someone for a long time and you're supposed to talk to them, you start making these things.
Yeah.
Like, I had to travel. I've been traveling a lot. You know what I mean?
Now what do you
Now,
got?
the thing that's funny is with the cell phone, all excuses are out the window, but they still work on my parents because they're old. Like I can go, oh, sorry, I've been traveling. Like I travel all the time. I just bring my cell phone with me and talk to whoever I want to talk to. But anyway, I was like running through these like little excuses for when I talked to my dad, because he like said, call me back or something like that. And I was like, what am I going to tell him? Because I can't tell him I'm traveling. I can't really tell him I've been performing a lot or super busy or I don't really have any good excuses lined up. And I started toying with this idea, which it just made me laugh, but I was still toying with trying to use it, which is, Dad, you're almost 90 years old. And I know you're in this super high risk category because your age. This is only killing old people. And obviously I know I can't come see you in person, but I didn't even want to call you and take any chances. Like
we don't know how this thing travels.
Can't be
we
too safe.
really don't know. You understand? I didn't want to take the chance. You understand? And I was like trying to figure out if I could sell that.
Sure, the chances are small of me communicating with you over the phone,
but
why
if there's
risk
even a
it?
small chance,
Yeah, and then I could go, look, no one knows what the chances are statistically. Nobody knows that. We don't have a crystal ball. And
Are you a scientist?
I didn't want to take any chance. So I was toying with that idea of floating that one out. I think I might be able to sell it to my mom. Don't know.
It's more pliable.
Yeah, my dad and I had a discussion on religion, but it was also an interesting discussion on my dad and his wiring, which is he's not wired like regular people in that he doesn't, I guess some people have a very fast kind of like A to B, which is like if you're dealing with Jimmy Kimmel and you go, hey, I got an idea for whatever, when we were talking about doing Crank Yankers or maybe another fake show we used to do on KROQ called the Cabbisons, he just went home on a Saturday or Friday, and on Saturday presented me with a whole bunch of characters. He'd take every character that we talked about who was in this sitcom, and he'd made a representation of them out of modeling clay. Jesus. Colored modeling clay, like the mom and the dad, like they looked like little,
like Mr. Bill.
Like Mr. Bill, but nice, like done well. He made them all, made like 8 of them. It's like, here, like that was like the next day. Now, the people I'm used to dealing with are the people where you bring up an idea and then you have to bring it up again, and then you have to bring it up again, and then at some point you yell, hey, what the fuck, in or out? Like, are you going to do this? Like, you have to just keep doing it.
And they say, stop hassling me. I don't like your tone.
Right. And some people have a real fast, like A to B. They can get from A to B real fast. The guys I grew up with and my family, they just stay on A and they just keep repeating and they can never get to B. Like, I'll tell you an example of a fast guy. You say to Mike August, you go, hey, I want to do a show at the Irvine Improv or something. You talk to him later on that day. He'll go, I talked to the guy, we're in. And I'll go, what, we're in what? Irvine. You want to talk to Irvine guy? We talked to Irvine guy.
Said you want to go to Irvine.
So boom. I told him, I saw Dan Crenshaw, the guy with the eye patch on Bill Maher. And I thought, God, this guy's so sensible. I love this guy. And I told Mike, hey, get Dan Crenshaw. Let's get Dan Crenshaw. And it's like a day and a half later. So I talked to him. It's done. Wow. But I realized he has a fast A to B.
Right.
And other people don't get, my dad doesn't get from A to B. So like he was saying to me, we're talking about religion. And he was telling me that he wished that I had more of an involvement with religion, that his kind of wish for me is that it was a part of my life, or a bigger part of my life, or some part of my life. And I told him I wish it was too. Like that'd be nice. I've talked about this with Costner the other day, and I was talking about it with my dad and same day. And then we're like, I said, yeah, I wish I was more religious. It'd be nice. And I started to tell him last time I talked to him, I said, you know, Dennis Prager's a very religious guy. And I've talked to him about religion, and I think more about it because I listen to Dennis and his approach to some of the stuff in the Bible, and it's interesting. And I'm not saying that I'm a religious person now, but I'm certainly not fighting against it or trying to defeat it or go against it. Poke holes as I used to do when I was 25 or something. I'm open to it, you know? And so my dad goes, Dennis Prager, who is this Dennis Prager? I said, oh, look at some of his videos online, and he's written a lot of papers on religion. He's he's a religious scholar, and he's an interesting guy. So go avail yourself of his information. So I talked to my dad. That was 2 months ago. And I talked to my dad yesterday, and he goes, hey, I was looking up this Dennis Prager guy. He has a lot of good ideas, and he is a religious guy. And I'm glad you're talking to him about that. And I said, yeah. And he said, could I meet Dennis Prager or something like that? And I said, yeah. And I said, I work with him. We do some projects together. We do some lectures and stuff like that every once in a while. And he goes, oh, because I'd like to hear more about Dennis and you and blah, blah, blah. And I said, well, I did make a movie with him. I made a documentary with him. It's just pretty much me and him. So you could check that out. And he's like, oh, okay. But he doesn't ask what the name of the doc is.
Yeah, he wasn't aware of it.
Anyway.
Oh, no, no, there's no way. There's no way. But first off, he lives 7 miles from me. So there's no.
Couldn't happen.
Yeah, there's a distance. There's a barrier to entry. Yeah.
He no, it's of course I'm over it, but it's to you who have normal relationships. It seems bizarre that he's unaware of this movie that came out, but he's definitely unaware of it. And then with being unaware of it, is still kind of unable to, he's not going to be able to watch it, you know? And I've said to him, just go online, type in, by the way, in the world of Google, don't we get way too caught up with, well, wait a minute, how do you spell Prager? Or just type in Adam, movie, Dennis, like, and then the 8 things going to pop up. Like
the first 3 things that come up.
Yeah, it's like people are like, hold on, is it Ford v Ferrari or Ford versus like VS? It's like just fucking type in Ford Ferrari. It'll
tell you what you want to know.
Right. So I had to have this whole
first thing that comes up. Adam, movies, Dennis.
Right. There you go. No safe spaces. Right. So I have to get in this whole thing of like, well, where do I find it? I'm like, I don't just type, you know, how do, no, by the way, it's Dad, it's Carolla, not COR. A lot of folks spell it that way. So we'll see. But that point of like, can't get from A to B, like doesn't know it's out there. Also presumably wants it, you know, wants to see me and Dennis and wants to see us do our thing or wants to know more about him or this world. Why can't you find it?
Well, he looked it up, which defied my expectations. I didn't see the story going that way. I thought it was going to be 2 months later. He's like, who's this Dennis Prager guy? Like, at least he went that far. I'm shocked.
It gave you some false hope.
It was, and I'll tell you why. And it's a good point, which is, normally I go over there and I go cars, building, cars, comedy, cars, building, comedy, cars, podcasting. And he just sits there.
Get that drop, Chris.
This time I said religion and he perked up, meaning part of the reason why he is who he is he doesn't give 2 shits about Paul Newman race cars or comedy or building or what have you, whatever, who cares? He does care about religion.
Right.
So as soon as we got into something he was interested in, by the way, this is a marker for a bad parent. As soon as you bring up a TV show, like I don't watch anything, I don't do anything, I only watch The Wire. So if my 9-year-old son wants to talk about The Wire, we shall talk about it. Everything else, fuck it. I have no interest in anything in the outside world. It's only The Wire. Like, or it's just my thing. You know, his thing is, I'm interested in religion. I'm not interested in anything else. So if you talk to me about racing cars or doing any of that, I'm not going to look anything up, or I'm not going to look up any of your docs on car racing or any of that thing. But if you bring up religion, now I shall do what I should have done with all the other things.
You should take a page out of your playbook, which is engage your son in his interests: Fortnite, fantasy football, you know, the things that he wants to talk.
That little shit. No, we're watching The Wire. Yeah, we have plenty of things we like to do together, and then there's video games and fairy tale football. And I'm a conscientious objector. I'm basically what Jane Fonda was with the Vietnam War.
Right. Oh, sure.
Is fairy tale football.
That's basically, that's your rich man, poor man. You only discuss religion with Kevin Costner or your father.
We have an intro to the Cabbisons.
Oh.
This is and somebody did some artwork on this. This was not me and Jimmy, but me and Jimmy, when we were on KROQ in the late 90s, mid 90s, probably like 95, we were working on a radio serial show called the Cabbisons. It was a family that lived in a taxi. And it was like a sitcom. You know, a sitcom just take place in the living room, like the Keaton's living room. You know, this was the exact same thing. It just took place in a cab. All right, sorry. And I think my grandmother did the voice of the old lady. Sorry. We'll have to start it again with a little volume, I think. Jeez, I've never seen this before.
They're the family that lives in a taxi. Come and hitch a ride with the Cabbisons. Open the door and hop in the backseat. Come and hitch a ride with the Cabbisons.
Wow.
It keeps going. All right, Chris, just find the actual theme song. Forget about the animation part of it, because the song, this is why I don't have a ton of respect for guys who write jingles. Well,
Poor Richard Marx's dad.
But there's been a few times when we've had to do fake openings for like TV shows, and they sounded about the same as half the ones I grew up with. Yeah. So I'm always sort of like, I feel kind of it's the same thing. Don't tell 50 Cent, but it's like when I always say when the SNL guys do a rap parody, they're pretty good.
Pretty good.
Like it seems pretty good. All right, you can look for that, Max Pat. I guess it's just the opening audio for the Cabbisons, because it's actually pretty good. We probably did it with like Cleto and Cleto's guys. So before Cleto became Jimmy's house band, it was Jimmy's neighbor and best friend. So Cleto Escobedo lived across the street from Jimmy in Vegas and just sort of became his best buddy. And so when I met Jimmy, it was me and Jimmy and Cleto were hanging around a lot. And he would, whenever we did anything musical at KROQ, he would get Cleto to get his guys and like come in and record all this stuff, which, by the way, nobody got paid for, but a smart move for the guys who came in, because they became the house band members on Jimmy's now 17th year running late night show.
Worked out.
As a musician, is there a cushier gig than house band?
Well, it's got to be the best.
You get paid great, no traveling. The thing musicians hate is they have to go on the road. You essentially have a job. The job starts at 4 p.m. You know, I mean, literally, I don't know what time the bass player from the band needs to get there, but he probably not much before 4 p.m, 3 p.m. You guys knock off at 6:30 in the evening. Like, think about those hours. You're in town, you get paid well, you're hanging. It's like low pressure, but fun. You get to, there's Matthew McConaughey, gave me a thumbs up. You know what I mean?
Everybody likes you. I think the Roots are happy.
Right. And so those guys were the guys that were helping us out, make the Cabbisons theme song and many of the other themes, a lot of the stuff that Jimmy was doing with the KROQ Christmas album and stuff. And then, of course, later on, when Jimmy gets his late night show, well, who are the guys who get to now have this cush gig? All right, Max Pata, we don't have a Cabbisons theme anywhere?
No, that's all I have. I reached out to Gio to see if he has anything.
Huh. So it's that was the Cabbisons theme, but they cut it off, or we had a technical problem?
That's all I have.
Yeah, that said it was an animation test, so maybe that's all they needed.
It's weird.
Yeah, we've played a clip of it years ago, but that might be on the computer at the studio.
Oh, yeah, I thought we played it at some point. Well, anyway, we'll get it when we get it. We'll figure out how it went. First, I'll tell you about Manscaped Perfect Package 3.0. Now, you got to have a trimmer so your sister can clean up the back of your neck, but you should also have a second one for downstairs. You know what I'm saying? That's Manscaped. This episode is brought to you by Manscaped. When's the last time you cleaned up your junk down there? Get rid of the funk and clean up that junk, man. Manscaped, the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and hygiene. They got the Perfect Package 3.0. It's new and improved. It's waterproof. You take it into the shower. It's cordless body trimmers. You don't plug it in. And they got cutting-edge ceramic blade to prevent manscaping accidents. And they've got a subscription. If you get a subscription, you get replacement blades and refills every 3 months and for a limited time, 2 free gifts as well. You get the Shed traveling bags, $39 value, and the patented anti-chafing Manscaped boxer briefs as well. It's Manscaped, right, Dawson?
Do yourself a favor and always use the right tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code Adam at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And use code Adam. Your partner, your body, and your balls will thank you.
All right, shall we take a quick break, come back and do the news with Gina Grad?
News with Grad. News with Gina Grad. Breaking viral, all those crazy Trump tweets. Give me news with Gina Grad. Trouble in the Middle East. Celebrity drunk meltdowns. Deep news with Gina Grad.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, I just got an alert here that I want to look at a little more. I'll tell you the headline. It says, our governor in California, Governor Newsom, to discuss redrawing floor plans at businesses and schools as California moved towards easing stay-at-home orders. So we'll see what the new school floor plan looks like, the new restaurant floor plans look like soon, I imagine. A little bit more in the coronavirus roundup category. New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy has released his 6-point plan for reopening the state, but no timetable. He says the stay-at-home orders are still in effect indefinitely. New Jersey apparently hit the second hardest after New York. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson returned to work today for the first time in weeks. He's recovering from the coronavirus. And Airbnb has announced a new cleaning protocol. It requires 24 hours between rentals for cleaning and to reduce any exposure to any residual viruses. So it's not like you're out at 2, so the next guy can get in here at 4.
No, this is going to, let me tell you something. There's always the the saying of we've talked about before, you sort of never waste a good crisis. That window, all right, let me tell you what's been growing and what's been shrinking. What's been shrinking is the thickness of plywood and the thickness of dimensional lumber. They shave a little bit to get a little bit smaller every year. The window that's growing is the check-out, check-in window.
That's right.
When I was a kid, not that we traveled, but you would check out at noon and check in was at 2. And it just keeps getting shaved further each direction.
Yeah.
So the window is getting wider for that.
Right.
They're going to use this goddamn Corona cleaning protocol to stretch. They're going to tack another fucking hour or 2 hours onto that window, and nobody can argue about it, right?
Yeah, because
they're going to go, because of the coronavirus cleaning protocol, safety. What we're going to do is, instead of 11 to 3, we're now going to go 10 check out and 4 check in, and no one's going to be able to argue. But here's the thing. They always do here's what we're going to do, but they never do. And we're going to knock 10% off the cost of it. They don't do that part. They just do the one part. They go, because of dangerous, because of the coronavirus. So that window is going to get bigger.
It's going to be like shoes off at the airport. I don't know how long it was between 9/11 or between Richard Reed, the shoe bomber, and TSA pre-check. Feels like years. And it feels like to me the same kind of thing where it's like, just to be safe, this will be 4 years down the road. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right. Do we have to take our shoes off at now? No.
Not if you're global entry.
Yeah, I think if you're doing pre-check, you're fine. I think still at the airport, they still make you take them off from the general line.
Belts, all that stuff. The fastest growing list of possible treatments for the novel coronavirus includes an unlikely candidate that's used to treat heartburn. It's called famotidine, and it's the active compound in over-the-counter heartburn drug Pepcid. This is according to sciencemag.org, and this is picking up some traction. On April 7th, the first COVID-19 patients at Northwell Health in New York City area began receiving this famotidine intravenously at 9 times the heartburn dose. They kept the famotidine study under wraps to secure
9 times.
Thank you. A research stockpile before other hospitals found out. They really wanted to keep it quiet so they could continue their testing. As of Saturday, 187 COVID patients in critical status, including many on ventilators, have been enrolled in this trial. They want like almost 1,200 people to be in the trial. Reports from China and molecular modeling results suggest that the drug, which seems to bind to a key enzyme in the virus, could make a difference. They won't know for weeks, but they're working on essentially Pepcid.
Gina?
Yeah.
Oh, let's say, I was trying to think. Brian has the drops. I was just looking at my notepad.
What was that?
Gina, you play my mom.
Okay.
I'm going to see if I can sell this. Reason I haven't called is because I didn't want to take any chances.
Okay.
All right. You call me.
All right.
Who makes the phone sound? I don't know what the protocol is.
I can handle that. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're going to want to know why I haven't called.
Okay.
Hello?
Adam. It's your brother.
Yeah. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
Hi.
The phone's been awful quiet at this house.
Oh,
Wonder where you've been. Why you haven't called.
Oh, well, I couldn't come visit you because of the social distancing, and you're 80-something. How old are you?
I'm 88.
I know. Yeah, 88 years young. So I didn't want to see you.
Is your phone broken? I guess your phone must.
No, my phone's fine. I'm on the phone now.
Oh, okay. So it's not broken then?
Yeah, I didn't want to come over and see you. By the way, I do love it when people ask one question and you give them another answer. That's my favorite. I wish I could do more of that realistically. Yeah, so sorry I haven't visited, Mom, but with the whole coronavirus business.
No, I've been being looked after. Dorothy Gravich has dropped off some
Dorothy,
scones.
yeah.
And so she really cares
dropped
about
off scones?
Yeah, of course there's a new scone place up the street. They're doing curbside takeout. So she cares about me. So she knows that I might need some hot scones and muffins.
Oh, yeah.
And her phone isn't broken.
Yeah, no, my phone's fine. Again, I just haven't swung by because I was worried about the pandemic and everything.
But you couldn't talk to me? You couldn't check in on me? Make sure I'm okay?
Oh, over the phone?
Yes.
Yeah, I just don't want to take any chances.
What's the chance you're taking over a phone?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist.
What does being a scientist have anything to do with it?
I don't know. I'm not a scientist detector.
A scientist detector? You can't call. I just want to know why my son isn't calling his mother.
I'm just telling you, I didn't want to take any, you're an elderly woman. Okay. Do you know that if you are under 35, you're invincible? But if you are over 80, you have a target on your back. Compromise. They call it compromise. So I got kids, your grandkids, you know them, Sonny and Italian. Yeah, okay.
Oh,
they're fine. They're fine. I'm not worried about them. But you, I worry about so much. So you're in a high risk zone.
Right. And I appreciate you worrying. I just wish we talked more. I miss my beloved son.
Right. I just didn't want to take any chances, Mom. Yeah, I understand.
Okay. It's hard to argue with that.
Yeah, and I think maybe maybe this is going on too long just right now. I don't know. I don't know how.
Oh God, are you contagious? Am I catching it?
I don't know.
Go tell Dorothy.
Hold on. I smell pumpkin scones in my house. Did you have those for breakfast?
Yes.
Oh my God, it's coming over the phone. Hang up. Hang up and don't ever call back. Don't ever call back. And scene. Thank you.
Wow.
That's a lovely guy.
You worked it out, and now I think you know how to handle this later today.
It's a good poll that Dorothy Gravitch bringing over scones.
That's all, Brian. Thank you.
Oh, all right. But still great. Good call, Brian.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. What else
So
we got?
Pepsid may save us all. Big scary news: millions of gallons of beer that is currently sitting in stadiums, concert halls, restaurants, bars. It's all going stale, according to foodandwine.com.
That's all kegged.
So the timing couldn't be worse because now the coronavirus, it hit right before St. Patrick's Day, before March Madness. So now beer companies are trying to get their kegs back so they can get refilled before the lockdowns lift. And the clock is ticking because the beer only stays fresh for apparently between 2 and 6 months. But before this is all over, there'll probably be a lot of beer dumped and wasted just so they can make room for the fresh beer.
Well, like good news and bad news if you're selling stadium beer. On one hand, you're going to have to, when you dump out one of those kegs, you're going to dump out potentially $5,000 worth of revenue, but you're only actually dumping out $31 of beer.
The markup is significant.
The markup is so insane. So it's like good news and bad news. You're really throwing away just $18 worth of Schlitz. On the other hand, you lost out on thousands in sales.
Right.
That's a very good point.
There's a glass half full version, a glass half empty version.
Literally.
Plastic cup.
Yeah.
All right, let's do one more, Gina.
All right. Well, somebody in New York is taking this very seriously indeed, and I would like to salute them. A Bronx store owner is giving his customers some straight talk over this coronavirus protocol. This is according to TMZ. I think we have a sign posted in the window of what appears to be a liquor store, a bodega. Tells his patrons exactly what's expected of them, and here is what the sign says: COVID-19 is some real shit. Cover your fucking mouth. Shut the fuck up. Buy your shit and leave immediately. Absolutely no titty or sock money. Stand back at least 6 feet, playa. Store capacity limited to 5 motherfuckers at once. You cough, you die. Drink responsibly.
Wow. It's like borders on racist, but strong. That is.
No titty
money. Stand. No titty money.
No titty or sock money.
Yeah. You don't want taken out of your sweaty body parts.
Yeah.
Women, the notion I was watching, Max Zapata, you got to get the opening for the Wild Wild West. I had this in my head somewhere. I was watching, sorry, the TV show with Robert Blake? No. Different Robert. Sorry. I'll think of the Robert for a second. There was a show called Wild Wild West, and it was a big show in like the 60s or something. I didn't really watch it much, but it was what the movie was based on and the song and everything else. And Robert Conrad was the guy. He was a big star, good looking guy and everything like that. What I noticed is lots of women keeping stuffed in their bra back. They're taking money, put in there, pulling out notes. Like it was a big sort of trope with pulling stuff in and out of the bra. But I was laughing because I was watching the beginning of this show, and it's a little animated thing with the theme music playing and everything like that. And I never really looked at it because when I was a kid, I'd just kind of see it and go, yeah, it is sheriff and a bad guy and a gun and a saloon and blah, blah, blah. But you watch the beginning of this top 10 popular network primetime TV show, and let's see what's depicted in this very short period of time. Got guys, lights a cigarette. First thing he does is light a cigarette. There's a gun and spurs. Bad guy comes out. He karate chops the bad guy. Then there's a guy who's cheating, and he's going to shoot him if he cheats. Another guy grabs a gun. but he shoots him, kills him. Then there's a chick. He grabs her and forces himself on her physically. Then he punches her in the face and walks away. All right, so
it's everything you need to know.
This thing's 20 seconds long. He balled up his fist and punched that chick in the face. She was trying to stab him, to be fair, but he still didn't have to slug her in the face.
That's some Grand Theft Auto shit.
The very first thing he did was light a cigarette. The second thing he did was shoot a guy and kill him. And the third thing he did was ball up his fist and he also strong-armed the chick. I mean, he
had his way with her.
He grabbed her and pulled him at her, planted a kiss on her, and then punched her in the face and walked away. That was all. He's the good guy.
What?
The show wasn't the West. The show wasn't the Wild West. Wild West. Yes, that was the show, and that all took place in about 25 seconds. So, and that was the character. That was James West, I guess his name was, but he was the protagonist, and he was the one who was punching everyone, smoking.
We're rooting for him.
That's who we're rooting for. All right,
well,
sorry.
I'm glad it was that, because I really thought when you said the Wild Wild West, you were talking about this song.
This is a Tooltip. This is not a terrible song.
You said the Wild Wild West.
I know. Yeah, it's bad, but it's not. I like it for some mostly ironic reasons, but I still enjoy it.
I dig this song.
It's got the gun firing with the ricochet at the beginning.
Yep.
Wild Wild West was on CBS. There you go. From 1965 to 1969.
That had a decent run for something no one remembers, and it's odd.
Can you imagine making a beginning of a show where the guy, first thing he does, like lights up, he lights up. Lights up, he lights up. He lights that cigarette the first 2 seconds and then kills a guy and punches a chick and forces himself sexually upon her.
Not if he's not the villain.
Right.
It's a playbook of what the network doesn't want you to do now. Like they're likable and.
What do you got, Chris?
Oh, so that intro was directed by Isidore Fritz Freeling, who is known for his work on Looney Tunes. He created Bugs Bunny, Porky Pig, all those characters. So he directed that.
He's used to that. Bugs dressing up like a woman and getting slapped.
Fresh. All right, let me hit Geico. Do you own? Do you rent? You'd probably do one or the other. Well, how about you bundle? You take your automotive insurance, your homeowner's insurance, your renter's insurance. You put it all under one umbrella at Geico. Geico makes it easy to bundle your homeowner's, renter's insurance along with auto policy. And you just go to geico.com, get a quote, and see just how much you could be saving. Geico makes it very easy to save when you bundle at geico.com. All right. Oh, Howie Mandel's going to be on tomorrow.
Nice.
Oh, that's going to be a good guy to talk to about this. And well, we were kind of talking about the things, like the window for the cleaning for checkout and check-in or whatever. The handshake may have gone the way of the dodo, and many of the things that Howie.
Now she wants that.
Yeah, many facets of Howie's life may come to pass. This may just be what we're doing going forward. So that'll be interesting. Curtis Jackson, 50 Cent. It's going to come up in a second. I will tell you guys that you can pre-order my book, which is just about done with the audio book. You can get that on Amazon, and you can go to I'm Your Emotional Support Animal. It's a very strong book and timely as well, so check that out. And you can go to check out our comedy, our stand-up at our YouTube page, youtube.com/Adam Carolla. And we'll take a quick break. We'll come back with 50 Cent right after this. 50 Cent Jackson is with us. Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter is the name of his book. It's available now on Amazon and just about everywhere. Good to see you, Curtis.
I'm happy to be here.
I love your story because I like boxing and I like motivation.
Right.
And I don't know, I was reading about you and I was trying to think, do you look at yourself as a musician, an artist, a creator, or sort of a entrepreneur?
Well, I'm all those things. Like, I'm an artist, music first. Without the opportunities that came with it, without the popularity and the finances that allowed me to invest in things, I didn't even have those things as an option. But being able to evolve and being able to look at the new opportunities and situations that came my way, I was able to adjust to different things. Like, after you get to a certain point financially, you pretty much have the things that you want around you. You can't really think of things to buy. You bought it already once.
Right.
And then there's I guess you come down off of those things, and then you start to look at your perception of things start to shift a little bit. You'll find interest in philanthropy, different things that wasn't even a thought in the very beginning.
Yeah, I mean, speaking for myself, I didn't grow up in an environment that had a relationship with money. Nobody invested in anything. There was nobody talked about starting a business or being an entrepreneur. Money was something you waited around. Maybe someone would give you money, or maybe you could get someone to give you money, but there was no relationship with it,
Yeah,
and you come from the same place, I'm guessing, or probably worse.
I identify with that, definitely. Like, in the environment that I grew up in, my grandfather's representation of tradition, and he simplified things. So he just went to work, he came home, he just gave my grandmother his check.
Right.
And I was like, because it was, my grandparents had 9 children. My mom was the only one of the 9 to pass. So I came into the house as their first grandchild and the new number 9. So I'm looking, there was absolutely no money around, because after you broke it into 9 children, spaces, it was like, like one situation, totally a hand-me-down type situation. So you would figure it out. The choices my mom made influenced my choices later, because she chose to hustle as far as the street life is concerned, and get involved in that lifestyle, because the upside was on unlimited opportunities at that point. It would show that versus welfare, because the option at that point, teenage pregnancy wasn't as common as it is now, and the programs that we have in place for people to go to school and take care of kids at the same time, they didn't even exist. So you receive a blue card during the summer. It was your working papers for the summer. So it was no other option. It was either be on welfare or hustle, and she made that decision. And then when I came up, everyone, after she died, she got killed when I was 8. When she died, the only people I seen have nice things was from her life. Like, they had the thing that symbolized.
Your mom was killed when you were 8.
Yeah.
What was the story behind that?
Well, that lifestyle is a dangerous lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? And she got caught up in that. But me coming into my grandmother's household at 8 years old, there was the only people that I seen that had nice things was from my mom's life. They was like, my name wasn't my name. My name is A. Little Sabrina. Like, they know me from my mom's baby. And they had those things that symbolized financial freedom. Like the jewelry, the cars, Cadillac, Bondevilles, Regals, things that you would see in front of you that represented the excess of finance. You know what I'm saying? My grandparents.
Right. So you grow up in an environment where most of the people have nothing, and then the people that do have something got it from selling drugs or hustling or doing some illegal activity. So now you have a choice in your mind: live in poverty your whole life,
or do you want to be broke for your life?
Right.
Period, and not have it. And then that'll lead you down that way. And you're asking, this is from a child's perspective at that point. You know what I mean? You're not even responsible for your actions. You're adolescent at that point. So if you ask, they'll almost make the wrong decision every time. You know, like, they're going to go for the instant gratification, the thing that would please them the best right then is going to be the right choice. And they'll pick that. And once again, within the lifestyle, you learn what you need to learn in maybe the first few months that you did.
Yeah, but here's what's interesting about your brain wiring versus many others around you. and I had the same wiring. We come from very different backgrounds, but not really. Everyone was poor, everyone was desperate, most of my friends were dumb. And I was looking at what was going on around me, and I was thinking, I don't want this for me. They were looking at it and thinking, how could they get more of it? And your young brain was able to look around and see people dying, seeing people getting addicted to drugs and alcohol and smoking, what it was doing to their health and so on and so forth. And you were thinking, how do I get past this and get somewhere else? Many other people don't think that way, and I can't figure out why they don't see that.
Yeah, they thought I was crazy. Actually, when I was going to focus on making music, when I was deciding to do that, it was like, because they hadn't heard me like rap before, it was like, and what you gonna rap about? And I'm like, this.
Right.
Exactly what we're doing. You know what I'm saying? And then we had guys that grew up in the neighborhood that were just known for rapping. That's all they did, was just rap, like the Lost Boys, Cheeks and Talib and these guys. And they saw them as artists, but it was like, and what you gonna rap about? So I'm gonna rap about what we was doing. And it came around full circle. I mean, it obviously, it worked. The lifestyle, when you look at hip hop culture, from my viewpoint, I see that the culture's attracted to things that are damaged. The people that have developed the artistic ability to deliver it in art form, but are damaged because they're gonna say it from a warped perspective. It's a distorted version of a distorted viewpoint.
It just locked up for a second. You seized up for a second, not mentally, but technologically. Do you think that many of the people that you grew up with had post-traumatic stress disorder, growing up in that much violence and that much chaos?
I think some of them did. Yeah, I think some people, because a lot of times if it's not hitting close enough to home, even the COVID. You see the numbers, it says 700 people or 600 people died yesterday. And then if none of those people are someone connected into your life cycle socially, it's out there, but we're not affected the same way people are that's losing people close to them, So, I think some a little more than others because it was hitting home more. They're losing their brothers and fathers and people right around them.
Well, I mean, you should have it. You lost your mom. You've seen a lot. I mean, I'm talking about as a young person, you experienced a lot of trauma.
Right.
And there should be a lot of negative effects of that residue on you, but you don't seem to be affected by it. How?
Well, it's just even the assessment of it, right? When you're not conscious of what should damage you, then you may not actually identify with why you're responding the way you're responding. And it also allows you the ability to not feel like that you're working at a disadvantage. Because if you look at it and you say, look at this, I've been through this, I've been through that, I'm damaged, you get your pity pot, you're giving yourself an excuse not to actually perform like everyone else. At that point, like me, I have the ability to take all of the situations, my setbacks, anything that happens, and kind of use it to catapult me to a new position because I've been through those ups and downs my entire life. Like it's been, like if you say you're a hustler, that means that you hustle, period. That defining you would be that this is my attitude, this is the way I approach things, this is who I am, right? If you say you're a tough guy, then you're gonna have to go through a tough experience.
Right.
Not just saying you're tough. You got to be tough to be that. Like, cause you have to go through tough situations. You're sitting in the jailhouse and different. I see these guys. They get on the internet. They say all kind of stuff. They know the lingo. They say it like they're the tough guys, but they're not doing the things that those guys do.
Well, speaking of tough, I know you love boxing and you did some boxing. So tell us, and also tell me if you believe that the boxing mentality helped you in business.
Oh, it absolutely, yeah, it helped a lot. Boxing, for me, it puts the weight of the whole situation on your own shoulders.
Mm-hmm.
it's the only sport where there's no, like, you can't pass we lost because of this person.
Right.
You gotta blame's all on you. Either you did the work to perform well or you didn't.
Yeah, and you have to, obviously, it's all about preparation, and it's all about the work, and it's all just one sort of battle against stuff you don't want to do, getting up early, doing road work, going to the gym, and all that, nutrition, making weight.
And it's an emotional thing, too, because how much is too much?
Right.
How bad do you not want to lose on the night of? That's how bad you make it hurt in the gym.
What weight did you fight at?
I was 150-something pounds at 12. I was Floyd's weight at 12.
So how did you get involved with boxing?
Well, there was a neighborhood boxing program in South Jamaica, Parks and Recreation.
Mm-hmm.
They had I tried to finance it. The PAL, the Police Athletic League,
mm-hmm.
financed the amateur boxing program, but when we get out of this COVID situation,
right?
But, they had a program. This Parks and Recreations had to build it inside. The structures inside the parks.
Mm-hmm.
They had built out into a small boxing gym, and that's where we went in. All you had to do was sign up, have your guardians come down and get you in.
Did you fight, I don't know, Golden Gloves? Did you do amateur stuff? What was your...
Amateur shows, like boxing shows, individual shows and stuff like that.
Sorry, I'm trying to mess with my computer here for a second, but I don't think it's working right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I boxed in the Golden Gloves in 1986, 85 or something. Something like that. I was okay, but I learned a lot. Like you really do learn a lot about yourself and a lot of self-discipline. And if you can get the discipline part out of it without getting your brain too scrambled, then you can take that and apply it to comedy or music or whatever you want. Who are some of the boxers that you looked up to or that you throughout history? Doesn't have to be current guys.
I've had I like Mike Tyson. I love Mike Tyson. I think Mike, he was one of the. I was a big fan of Michael Nunn, and that whole Olympic class with Mildred Taylor and was it Michael Nunn, Mildred Taylor? It was
Michael's nickname was Second to None. Was that Mike? Was that him?
Second to None. Yeah.
Yeah.
Long jab, southpaw. He's a southpaw. That's why I liked him.
Oh, you're a southpaw?
Yeah.
I'm a southpaw.
Left-handed. This is a disadvantage, but it's an advantage.
The thing that I liked about, well, I think the real advantage about being a southpaw is if you're a left-handed person, your right hand gets good because you're living in a right-handed world.
Right.
So there's many things you have to do with your right hand. So most people's weak arm is fairly useless, and they have to really develop their bad arm. But if you're left-handed, your bad arm's already pretty good from shifting a car, working a saw, all the stuff that's kind of right-handed, scissors, everything else. So you can pick it up a lot faster. Tyson, the thing that was great about Tyson is he fought as a heavyweight, but his style was like a flyweight. He threw really compact punches, and he did stuff heavyweights just weren't doing back then.
Way faster. His discipline was different because of the circumstances of how he learned. Customato, in those early stages, he really learned. Like he was paying attention. The only thing that derailed Mike was that relationship. When that wasn't there, he was in complete control of it, and then everything got out of control.
Yeah, it's kind of scary how total discipline and total control can spin out of control in such a short period of time. If you look at it, it's a matter of 2 years or something where it just spins. It just spins out. Let's talk about the book. What's in this book? What do you want people to take notice of?
They'll get a chance to benefit from my experience, and it being said in plain English where it's not so sophisticated that they don't get it.
Is this what's next? What do you want to do? I mean, it's weird because you kind of do everything. I was looking at your IMDb. I mean, you've been in a movie a year for the last 15 years. It seems like so. What is it that you're thinking about? What is it that you'd like to do that you haven't done yet?
I want to do what I've been doing better. Now I've had an opportunity to.
No, it's a great answer. It's that is such a good answer, because the answer that everyone always gives is they pick something like ceramics or something, and they go, I want to get a potter's wheel, and you go, oh, okay, but doing what you've been doing better is the best answer, because you already do 500 things.
Right, and there's for me, when you do, like, I figured out if there was a point where I needed to diversify as far as my music was concerned. There's a resistance that you would see from the artist community and hip hop culture, because they want you to go. This is why they love things that are damaged. So when it goes up, it's like boom, and it's interesting to look at, because you know that this person is a little. There's no better way to say it than damaged. Like if you looked at reality television, they would pick Snooki and make her the star of Jersey Shore. Or someone else, that, like, whoever's the craziest person, the energy feels crazy. They attract to that, and then it makes them feel. They go, oh, this person is stupid, or this person. It makes them feel better about themselves watching that person. And then when they get to the point that you develop the ability to sustain it. Oh no, this is not what we expected. We expected you to go up and come right back down. So when you get there and you stay there, they go, no, we need you to move. We need you to leave. Why? Because if you stay there, then how do I have my chance?
Right. Well, that's an interesting point. I interviewed Terry Crews once, and he said, stop looking for someone to give you, sort of their piece of the pie, or a piece of their piece of the pie. Make your own pie. Make the pie deeper. Stop this sort of thought of these people have this stuff and we got to get that. We got to get their stuff from them. They got to kick us down their stuff. His thing is make your own stuff.
That's right. Yeah, you get a lot of people that approach you with an idea, this great idea that's going to make a lot of money, and you should be excited about it, but it doesn't work if you don't do it.
Right.
They need you to do it. And you go, okay, whether you do it or not, when they come around, they'll have some sort of resentment towards you when they're at the end of their time period, when they feel like that was enough. I wasted enough time with this, or I've been here, we worked on it and we didn't do it. It didn't happen the way I expected it to. Those expectations, it's like almost an entitlement that develops with the coming around.
How's your success been with your family? Because I know it can be difficult when you don't come from too much, and then somebody breaks off and makes a bunch of money and has a lot of success. Sometimes it can be difficult. How's that been?
You know what happened with my family was really interesting, because I had 4 uncles, 4 aunts, and they I didn't grow up as an only child. I didn't grow up ever by myself with that many people around. You know what I'm saying? So it's like I don't feel the lonely thing that kids will feel at different points when they're the only child. So with them, personality-wise, when my grandmother passed, it changed my whole family dynamic, because she was really my family, like the whole thing. She was the nucleus, the reason why it drew us all together. Because
did you know your biological dad?
No.
You never met him, never knew his name?
No.
Your mom knew, obviously. She didn't want you to know?
Yeah, no, well, she never brought it up because he just wasn't participating in my life. I was 8 years old. I was 8 years old when she passed. And then we never had any communications about it. And as an adult, I never had interest in it. Because at that point, all the mistakes I made, he could have prevented me from making them in those earlier stages. But I'm grown.
Did he ever reach out to you at any point?
No.
To this day?
No. Yeah.
Do you ever wonder? Do you think he's alive?
No, I don't even wonder. I'm not sure if he is or not, but
so your wiring is really resilient and really interesting. You know, a lot of people lament over these things and waste a lot of sleep over them and think about them and want to get reconnected and feel like there's a hole in them that can never be filled until they meet, you know, their biological dad. But you have this kind of resilient wiring where you don't think about it.
Yeah, I don't even, like, my grandfather was my father growing up. Like, he was representation of that. And my grandmother was like my mom, my second mom, right? And then I had a lot of love, man. A lot of love around me from those figures.
Right.
You know, so I look and I don't feel like I'm missing anything. Like, I think you can get dealt a bad hand. You don't have to keep it. You put it back in your hand. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times,
how'd you meet Eminem?
He came as the mixtape music. After I had experienced being shot, I was dropped from Columbia Records. I had to figure out how to market myself. So what I did was I created when an artist says their mixtape is coming out now, they don't realize they're following my format. Like,
what year was this?
This was 2001.
2001.
The end of 2001 into 2002. Because I didn't come out till 2003, but as I was approaching it, I did a mixtape where I created music and did it in song format. Where it was verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse. And as I did that, I did fake key art, and I put like barcodes and stuff like that on the back of it, so it felt like it was something worth stealing.
Mm-hmm.
And then
how would you physically distribute the tapes?
The bootleggers would distribute it for me.
Oh.
See, once it looked like an ideal, like the packaging for off Columbia Records, because I was previously on Columbia. When I got dropped, I looked at Columbia Records, we took the barcode off, we put it in the art, put everything else, and the bootleggers produced the copies for me. And ended up
and you knew that, you anticipated that.
Yeah, I knew they would do it. But that was the only way that I could have a broad distribution without mainstream marketing. Participating, the finances connect to it, and because it was something that you couldn't find in the actual record store, it was cooler. Like you ain't got this. Like, the person that had it was cool. They was hip for having something that you couldn't just go buy in a regular store. And it was me taking the music that was working commercially at the moment and writing it for the street. So it's like when they were writing it with content that could actually play on the radio, I'm writing it without any thought of what's playing on the like what would play on the radio.
Why did Columbia drop you?
Well, I got shot 9 times. And
yeah, but still, you think what would Columbia say? Would they say we dropped Curtis because he was shot 9 times?
Well, yeah, Columbia Records, they stopped answering the phone. See, this is what happens if something happens that's too extreme or too intense for them to support, or like it's okay for you to say it on the record, but when it happens, it's a whole different thing. Like, like you've been saying these things on the records that reflect the environment, but when you're in the environment and those things actually happen, you go, whoa, this is way too close. Nobody wants to be directly associated with it because they don't want to get hurt or bring that energy towards them. You know, and when they just the people, the Columbia Records as a system was just like some more corporate kind of building, like the way it was put together. The track masters, they moved them over there. Mark Jordan was the executive at the time, and these guys, they wouldn't answer the telephone following that. And then it was the music took even further. Like, it was my influence was stronger following the situation because it was the perfect time to change my narrative. And then when they see me said the same things that I said before I got shot, they said, I believe them.
When you're shot 9 times and you survive, do you have a feeling of, I don't know, invincibility, a feeling of like, I was put here to do something? You know
that feels like you do like that there's a plan for you. And, you know, because at that point, you say, how am I able to be shot 9 times? And you go, this is when you find your higher power, regardless. You look and you say, it's in God's plan for me to do these things. If there's a point, look, the process is so painful that you go through fear, the fear of it, and the experience, because when you're done with the pain itself, you know you're gonna be fine. The doctor told you you're all right, you're gonna be fine. Then now your bones are hurting, your body's, so all the bones that are broken in your body are gonna take the same 6 weeks that it would take for you if you broke your finger or your hand, whatever. It would take 6 weeks for it to heal. So while that's happening in that 6-week process, in 5 or 6 areas at the same time, you feel a whole new kind of pain. And that process would be something so new, because I never was even afraid of, like, the guys that we considered the tough guys in the neighborhood. I wasn't afraid of them because I grew with them. We came out of the same weeds. So it's like you look and I'm like, oh, that's what's the name from over here. I know who you're talking about. So he did this or he did that. Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, there was no fear there because we were in the same age bracket and doing some of the same kind of things. You know what I'm saying? So I just looking at it, like, I was being raised by the element that you would actually be afraid of. So the thing that you would fear was already in my surroundings.
Do you know why you were shot?
Yeah.
Can you tell me? I was reading about it. I know the guy was allegedly one of Tyson's ex-bodyguards, and some story about that. And I guess he's not with us anymore.
Yeah, Homo. But what's the name? He wasn't like a bodyguard for him then. He's just somebody who was just around. He was in the entourage and stuff like that. And then the what's the name? Really, look, me, I'm getting shot because people I have relationships with, like, these guys are from my neighborhood, right?
Right.
They're siding with things that they feel like are a little more established. You know, like when a person takes their blessings and turn it into something negative, nothing ever comes out of it. You know, so you saying when they reach the point for the first time that they could turn their record label and that they could actually have their own company, they called it the Murderers or the INC, and then they brought a supporting cast around to make it feel real.
I know I know we only have half an hour with you, so I just wanted to sort of hit a couple of topics before we bring it home. I'm really interested. What I'm really interested in is your resilience and your motor and your drive, and I'm very interested in how do you pass that along to somebody else who comes from where you come from? How everyone else seems to just go down the negative cycle, and you didn't go down the negative cycle. You knew what was going on when it was going on, and you're sort of alert enough to see it and deal with it and then push past it. How do we give that to younger people who come from where you come from?
I think only thing you do is lead by example. You know, when they see someone else, they've been under the circumstances that they're under, and they go, without asking to be this, I become a symbol of hope. I become a reason for people to feel like they can make it regardless of the circumstances, because I'm off the bottom. Like, there's a lot of the guys that I grew up with, they pick different paths. Their personalities led them in different directions. That sometimes your demons are stronger than you. It forces you to do things that you can't. You don't even have a reason. Like, you look and you say, why exactly did you do that? And it just goes, I don't know. You know, they just tell you after the fact. Like, you know, I got friends, guys that I grew up with, they were friends of mine that have done all kind of stuff. You'd be like, what? Why? Like, you know what I'm saying? What possessed you to do that? And you go, I don't know. Like, at the time, it felt like this.
Right. Well, in a way, it's kind of impulse control. It's like,
Yeah.
don't act on everything you want. Delayed gratification, I
Yes.
think they call it. Sorry, I did cut you off on the Eminem thing because you got shot 9 times in the middle of it.
He came to me as the mixtapes started to take off. He was able to hear the music and not like a demo. So a person makes a demo, it would be 3 songs, 2 songs, 4 songs, right?
Right.
And if you like them, if one of them feels like it's a hit, you might want to work with the guy and invest in finding other things. But I had started like releasing multiple tapes, and each one of the tapes was like 12 and 16 tracks. So it was like, it wasn't a question of whether I could deliver. It was, do you like what I'm doing? And when I met him for the first time, it felt like, I swore I felt like the camera was going to come out like MTV, you're being pumped.
Right. Well, he had said when he was inducting you into the Walk of Fame, Hollywood Walk of Fame, he said that he'd memorized all your stuff and was rapping it back to you.
And I'm looking at him like, yo, like, you know, I have moments still to this day where I'm looking at him like, do you know you're the biggest rapper in the world? Like, in the world? Like, period? Like, he asked, when we was at the Walk of Fame, he was like, yo, I'm like, he said, oh, you want me in the picture? Yes, we want you in the picture. You're the biggest fucking rapper in the world. Yes, we want you in the picture. All the time. And can I tell you now that we want you in the picture every time a camera's around? Like,
well, you know, he has an interesting kind of humble
Very
vibe. Humble. I was doing a show called Crank Yankers on MTV. Oh, no, sorry. I was doing Crank Yankers on Comedy Central, and he was a big fan of the show, and he wanted to do some phone calls for the show. And so we went to a studio, and he went and he probably made about 50 million bucks that year. And for lunch, he bought Taco Bell for everybody.
Yo, let me
and
say,
that's who he is.
Yo, there's points where we was in a jewelry store at one point, and I saw this Miles, and he looked at Paul, and he was like, is it okay?
Right.
To get the jewelry, like, I was like, yo, because I was already like, for my first record, and Eminem made a boatload of money, like the Master Mathers LP, 22 million copies, all of that. Like I used him in my career so there's always room for growth. Mm-hmm. Because I'm at 13 million, but everybody, all my peers, every artist that they would directly compare to me is so far under me in the numbers that I'm just out here, I gotta use him. So I watched the Marshall Mathers LP, the 23 million was in our business manager's office, second office, and it had all of these flags around. I said, I want that.
Right.
You know what? I said, I want that right there.
I should say, I'll plug your book, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter. It's available now on Amazon. Hey, Curtis, I know we're getting to the end of our time. Any thoughts about what's going on right now? I had this thought, which is you should stay safe with this coronavirus because you've been shot 9 times. And if this coronavirus takes you down, I'm going to get depressed.
Listen, look. The way we're going to have to rely on science, man. I think we're just buying time. So, to be real, like, I don't even understand how we can go back. Like when they start talking about reopening.
Yeah.
How do you do it? Like, how do you saying with no cure, there's no, the idea of reopening is saying just go back and die.
Well, you got to figure out who's young, who's strong, and who's not in that area.
We can't even determine if how strong you look. I'm drinking ginger and lime and stuff to build my immune system. Take a shot of this every morning. There's different things for now. That wasn't a part of my breakfast.
No, now you.
Yeah, and you're like, what? I'm drinking some shit, and you're like, what is this? But if it would raise the probability of me not actually getting it, I'm drinking.
Well, how much is your life interrupted? Did you have tours scheduled? Were you performing, corporate,
moving around,
travel?
Interrupted more through the film. Because I have 3 television shows.
Right.
That were actually filming at the same time. So, you know, all three of them.
Everything's shut down. Yeah, man. Well, I'm happy you checked in with us, and we'll do it again. Hopefully soon. I've always been a fan of yours, and I've never really. I don't think I've interviewed you before,
That's
but
the first time, yeah.
Always been a fan, and tell Eminem we're back doing Crank Yankers if he wants to do another set for us.
I know he'll be into it. That's the thing.
Curtis 50 Cent Jackson, Hustle Harder, Hustle Smarter, available as we speak on Amazon. And thanks for joining us, my friend.
Thanks for having me, man.
So until next time, it's Adam for Curtis Jackson and Gina Grad and Bold Brian saying mahalo.